Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be my update on my eyeshadow project pan sort of series, pan those palettes, pan those shadows, whatever you want to call it. If you didn't watch my intro, I will link it below and in the cards, but I sort of selected 3 palettes to focus on. Normally people just do one, but mine was already pretty used, so I wanted to incorporate my other 2 oldest palettes. So I'll just show you the progress that I've made on those right now. The first palette was the Tartelette in Bloom. This is the main palette that I'm focusing on finishing. And this is what it's looking like. This palette was already heavily used, as I've said before, but I definitely made some progress on a lot of the shades. So I'm just going to quickly take you through what I do with each of these and sort of how I'm using them up. The shades Charmer and Flower Child are like cream matte shades, so those are perfect for like setting your lid. That's something that I definitely like to do, not because I think it's going to make my eyeshadow last longer, but because it just makes my eyeshadow go on smoother on top of my primer. So I actually, out of the 2, I definitely prefer Flower Child because it's a lot more like my skin tone. But because Charmer was not really getting used, because I was focusing so much on Flower Child, I decided to take a break from Flower Child and just use Charmer. And it's gone to the point now where I'm almost done with that one. And I'm totally okay with that because I kind of would prefer just going through that one first and then having a little bit of this one left because I love this shade so much. I feel like if they sold this as a single shadow, I would probably buy it because it's so nice. But every once in a while, I do mix a little bit of Flower Child as well because this one on its own is a little too pale. But either one works really well for me, to be honest. And I really, really like the quality of these matte shadows from this palette. So I'm super happy with my progress on both of those. These 2 shadows here, Jet Setter and Smarty Pants, were the first palettes where I hit pan when I started using this palette because they're the perfect like transition shades, especially if you are into more like neutral and cool tone looks. Jet Setter is definitely more of a cool tone, almost like contour shade, and Smarty Pants is a very neutral like beigey transition shade, and I used them so much. I was using them every single day. And Sweetheart, because it looked pink in the pan, I was always kind of like, I don't know, I was not as attracted to this shade as these other 2, but because I was using these 2 so fast, I wanted to take a break from them as well and start using Sweetheart. And when I started doing that, I realized that Sweetheart actually comes on very like warm, like peachy on the eye. So even though it looks pink in the pan, on the eye, it looks like a very neutral, warm transition shade. So I've actually been using that a ton because I've been more into warm looks recently, to the point that I've actually, like with these ones, I've started using this one more than the ones that I prefer, which I'm okay with because I'd rather use up the ones that I don't love as much first and then only have the ones that I adore left over. But yeah, I've made a lot of progress on Sweetheart because I've been using it pretty much, I wouldn't say every single day because I've been using other palettes as well, but I've used it about 4 or 5 times a week. And then Smarty Pants and Jet Setter have sort of taken a bit of a break, but I still sort of use them every once in a while. Rebel is a shade where I still haven't hit pan, but there's a massive sort of dip going on there, and I think that will happen pretty soon. It looks very like light on the pan, but it's actually like a nice deep brown. So I actually use this a lot to deepen up looks. So if I need a brown, basically I kind of go to this one, even if it doesn't really look like a brown on the pan. So yeah, I think I'm gonna hit a pan on that one next. And then Funny Girl is a shade that I used to use for my lid, like all over the lid, and I still kind of do that sometimes, but because I've been playing with so many other shadows, I've been using other lid colors from other shadows. And what I've been doing with Funny Girl is I've just been putting it in my inner corner. And because this is actually repressed, this layer of shadow that you see here is actually super, super thin. So every time I pick some up, like a bunch of product kind of comes on the brush, which is fine. Like it's not getting wasted or anything, but I think it looks like there's more than there actually is just because it's been repressed. And Activist is just like a liner shade for me, and there's a tiny pan on that. And I really like that shade just for like, I guess, intensifying my lash line. And I've been still using it for that. I just don't use it every single day, but you know, I do use it. My least 2 used shades in this palette are Smoke Show and Leader, but I'm okay with that. I'm not really too worried about those. I'd rather just focus on the ones that I actually really, really like. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just a little too dark for me for every day. And the shade Rocker is one where I'm not really into the shade. It's nice and everything, but I'm not really into like taupey shimmery shades. I'm gonna try to find like some looks that use colors like that just for inspiration to see if I can start using it more. But even if I don't use these 3 that much, as long as I can get all of the use out of the other ones, I'm completely fine with that. And if anything, whenever I use those shades up, what I would probably do is depot these into like a magnetic palette, so I wouldn't like just throw them away. But yeah, this is what I've been using pretty much every day. I don't just use this palette though. I've been using them in conjunction with my other two palettes, and also whatever other palettes and shadows I feel like using. So I'm not like restricting myself to just using this palette, but it's just a perfect companion to a lot of my other shadows. So very happy with that. The next palette that I've been using a ton is the Urban Decay Born to Run. As you guys know, this is part of my little project as well. This one doesn't have any like visual progress. The only two pans were already there. But I've been using the shade Riff a lot more because I really want to focus on using that one. It's a perfect like transition shade as well. And I've used Good As Gone, like that brown there as well. I've actually used the color Double Life and Accelerate, which are like shimmery orangey shades on my lid. As I said, I've been into really warm looks recently, so those have come in handy. But yeah, I actually used the shade Wild Heart recently and I didn't like it. I don't know if I kind of ruined it by using too much water on my brush, but I'm gonna continue playing around with that one. But other than that, everything else that I've used from here I've really enjoyed. Again, no visual progress yet, but I think once I start using up some of the shades in the Tartelette in Bloom palette, I'm probably gonna use more of these shimmery like champagnes here and their shade Riff a lot. And the last update is from the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette, and this one is very exciting because I hit pan on 2 new shades. Well, it's the only shades that I have in this palette with pan, but it's the shade Gingerbread Latte, which is like a warm transition shade. Again, I have one of those in pretty much every palette, but Gingerbread Latte, and then Spiced Rum, which is a shimmery brown. I've been really enjoying using these. This is a very easy shade to use. I mean, actually, it's not super easy because it's very, very pigmented, but it's in terms of the color, it's very easy because it goes with pretty much any look that I like, especially because, again, I've been into really warm looks. And then the shade Spice Rum is something that I was surprised that I hit pan on so quickly, because on my lid normally I like a golden or champagne color, but recently I've just been enjoying different shimmers on all over my lid, and especially like for winter, for some reason I really enjoyed this shade all over my lid, Spiced Rum. It definitely needs to be used with either a wet brush or like a glitter glue, and I think that's helped me use this so quickly, because when you use it with a wet brush, for some reason, like, as you pick up more product and, you know, the shades get used up a lot quicker. But even then, you know, like, I've still used it a lot and I don't feel like I've wasted the shadow or anything like that. So yeah, I'm super happy with those 2 new little pans there. And I've also been using the shade Hot Toddy a lot. This is that sort of pink peachy duochrome shadow. I really, really love it. That might be the next one I might hit pan on, because again, it's a shade that I need to use with a glitter glue. So what I do is I put on the glitter glue with a brush on my eye, but then I also pick up the shadow with that same brush. So the brush is not necessarily wet, but it's still like very tacky, so it picks up a lot of product. So I think that's probably going to be my next pan. I'm not gonna like purposely like try to pan it because I really, really love this shadow, so I don't want to like use it up because I love it, but I'm not gonna keep myself from using it, because I was doing that for months. Like, I loved it so much that I wasn't using it, which is very silly. So yeah, really like that. I also use the shade Bake It Till You Make It a few times. It's kind of similar to the Spiced Rum shade. And I also use Gingerbread a few times, which is a slightly warmer version of Gingerbread Latte. But yeah, I love this palette. I love the names. I love the concept of it. It was really fun to use around Christmas and stuff. So really love it. I'm not in any particular rush to like get rid of this palette or use it all completely, because I really enjoy having it. But I'm very pleased to see that I'm actually getting used out of the shadows and they're not just sitting in my collection looking pretty. And I think this palette is actually going to have its time to shine a little bit more once I used up a lot of the shades in the Tartelette in Bloom palette, because it has some similar shades. So like Spiked Eggnog is quite similar to Funny Girl. And then the shades Powdered Sugar, Looky at My Cookie, and Sugar Daddy, those are all matte, kind of creamy shades. I mean, these 2 are more pink, but I think they could do the job of like setting the lid. Powdered Sugar could definitely do that, but it's too light on its own. It's essentially white. So probably by mixing these 2 together, I can create a shade that would be good for me for setting my eyelid once I use up these 2 shades here. So yeah, as I said, once this palette is kind of used up, or at least a few of the shades, this palette is definitely going to become like an everyday essential for me, because it's going to replace the Tartelette in Bloom in some aspects. But yeah, I really enjoy this palette, and I've been enjoying sort of focusing on all three of these because they're all palettes that I love. As I said in my first video, these happen to be the three oldest palettes in my collection, even though they're not that old. I think the oldest one is from September 2017, so they're still, but they are the oldest ones. So I've just really been enjoying getting the most out of them. And as I said, I do use my other palettes still. I will just have them all like in front of me and then dip into whatever shades I feel like I need, but I still use my other palettes. I'm not restricting myself and like not letting myself use my other shadows. I really want to get use out of everything that I have in my makeup collection, but it's just been really nice to sort of revisit some of these old favorites and just use them up. Throughout this video, I included clips of me applying the shadows and sort of showing you guys what I do with them, but if there's anything you would like to see in my next update, maybe like a full look using these or something like that, just let me know. But yeah, I just thought it'd be useful to show you guys sort of how I use them on a regular basis, as well as showing you the actual palettes to show you the progress. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!